I've heard that J.K. Rowling made her protagonist male because a male audience supposedly can only identify with a male main character. But it seems that Neia, the protagonist of 2 Overlord light novels, has proven her wrong, and at least part of this is because her relationship with Shizu is really well made, intriguing, and captivating. First of all, I should explain why the typical friendship, nakama, or perhaps love interest thing is something really scarce when it comes to characters in Overlord. It's because scarcity increases the value of it. In a typical feel-good light novel, I wouldn't care much about Enri and Inferior, Sebas and Suare, or Neia and Shizu, because I know in the end, everything will be fine. Generic light novels usually work like this. In the first book, both main characters are established and they like each other. And in the 100 light novel, they kiss and the series finally ends. And somewhere in between, various misunderstandings of no consequences will happen. In Overlord, this is different. You get some disposable villagers you don't care about, they make a return, and they become useful to Ainz. Hentai haircut guy and Enri getting some loot handholding, and after Enri becomes a goblin general, Inferior gets what he always wanted. In fact, he gets much more than he can handle, and thusly he invented a potion that is able to regenerate stamina as well as health, for rather obvious reasons. And this sense of continuity is awesome. Enri's and Inferior's relationship goes on after they confess, so if you come across a character you like, you might be able to enjoy many hours with them, but after Swords of Darkness were massacred and not revived, because at this point they were more useful to Ainz dead than living, it was very suddenly made clear to you that every inferior life form is truly at stake at any given point in time. Gazev Stronov, Team Hindsight, all the 6 arms and 0 heads had proven that no one is safe from sudden death just because they had awesome build-ups or because they are beloved characters. Likewise, even certain death flags such as talking to your wife about another child while hugging your precious firstborn son before a battle against Ainz Ulgaon himself doesn't necessarily mean that this character is going to die. And this brings me to Neia. First and foremost, we have to establish Neia's suffering. You can read the Overlord light novels in many different ways. As a deconstruction of isekai, as an homage to H.P. Lovecraft. And you can read it as criticism of the current imbalance between work and life. I said it before, but Demiurge is so over the top evil that normal people can't really relate. But an absolute holier than thou asshole boss, who acts all righteous while treating you like shit, is something very different. In some point in our lives we encountered somebody like that. At school, at sports, at work, among your friends, your family, or anywhere else. We all know some Remedios characters in real life. It's similar how Voldemort is basically pure evil and not relatable, while we all had at some point in our lives a Dolores Umbridge as teacher. Just like Neia. And thusly she becomes insanely relatable. You follow her to the daily struggles, you see how powerless and unhappy she is, and you know the reason why she can't just leave, and it affects you. And even when Neia did something incredible, brave and beneficial, Remedios still would find a way to scold her and put her down. And this in general is why Neia is such a beloved character, and if something happens to her it would hit you hard. And then you are reminded that at any point in time your beloved character may die. And frankly Neia did, but luckily she got revived after Ainz Ulgaon finally realized that Neia admired him. So it was a real relief when Shizu and Neia started to get along. And what a perfect match this is. To most other beings, Shizu seems emotionless like Dr. Manhattan, but Neia with her keen eyes still manages to interpret what little mimic there is. It's also kinda ironic that the Terminator girl is the first of Nazarik's denizen to forge a bond with an outsider. Again, quick reminder that most outsiders aren't exactly valued for their character, or their very existence. And so far only Entomar's Solution and Demiurge seemed interested in what's inside of people. But Shizu is sincere. In fact, the battlemate was so sincere that Ainz had to ask if it's still just a friendship or a bit more. And Neia being friends with the robot maid feels so organic. In most fictions you get some people being friends who have nothing in common, but then an epic battle happens and they are all best friends forever. Every time I see something like this, it feels so rushed and artificial. In stark contrast, Neia's friendship with Shizu started slow. First as a sense of Neia being very nervous and uncertain, and the same likely goes for Shizu. But by talking about a common interest, praising Einzelgaun of course, they spend time together. And thus they get to know each other and each other's quirks and personalities. And during the start of this friendship, Neia becomes much more able to read Shizu's expressions, while Shizu started to deal with Neia's harsh facial expression, and at the end she found it kinda cute. And there are also many more little interactions that serve to illustrate their bond. Typical girly activities, like sharing a chocolate milkshake, Shizu hugging Neia and patting her head in order to calm her, or Neia picking raw meat out of Shizu's hair while infiltrating a city overrun by demi-human warriors and ruled by a demon. And of course, while the first try of putting a 1 yen sticker on Neia led to a misunderstanding, we can assume that the second sticker already found his way on Neia's clothes. It's also quite useful to have a token of one of the battlemates with you in order to avoid the appetite of the last 2 player IDs, Solution and Entoma. Anyway, this relationship, this mutual understanding, and this continued build-up is awesome. And at the end, Neia, the former downtrodden and somewhat isolated squire, was able to form a cult by overcoming her looks, restraints and prejudices, by using her fervent belief in Einzelgaun to preach about the glory of Nazarick in a public manner. This is something that the beautiful but quiet and somewhat inert Shizu seems to admire. So after all, a happy ending for both of them. But before this happy ending happened, there was a moment where all seemed lost. In the last battle of the Demi-Human War, where Demiurge brought in his reserves from behind, trapping the human army in between a horde of fresh demi-humans and Yaldabaoth, who was busy and bored roasting human warriors. And even though Neia could flee, she chooses not to and was promptly surrounded by 2 demi-human armies under Yaldabaoth's control, ready to die yet again. And at this point I was like, fuck Demiurge. He as usual misunderstood or rather overinterpreted his non-existing orders. And now he will kill off Neia to demoralize his enemies and thusly eliminate the flaw Ainz introduced in his plans. So this moment when Neia was in danger, I truly feared for her life. And I also hated the idea that Shizu would be heartbroken, while Ainz likely wouldn't be able to tell or intervene because this would be disappointing Demiurge. This is of course not what happened in the end, since the new army was under the control of the great sorcerer king Einzelgaun, but the fact that I genuinely feared for Neia's life and what her permanent death would mean to Shizu really shows that I was quite invested in this whole relationship, and I really hope that the story of their relationship continues in Overlord's light novel volume 14. So this was me essentially just fangirling over the power of love and friendship in Overlord. So the next video will be about a solution to this problem. Over and out.